so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads. Welcome to a very special episode dedicated to none other than you, the pea heads themselves. I am your pea head enthusiast and hostess for the day, Alexa Hauser. I have been blessed to have the experience of helping out with Positive Head social media for the better part of a year. And through my digital interactions, I began to realize, as did Brandon, that we have some incredible beings listening to this show who are taking the information that Brandon puts out through the podcast and using it to transform their lives and create wonderful things. You listeners are all a huge, huge part of the life force that propels this show forward through time and space, and we think it's time to bring forth some of you beautiful reflections and delve a little deeper into this collection of energy that is the Positive Head community. So as we shine the spotlight on our listeners, what we'll have them do is share their stories of how they attracted Positive Head into their life, the transformation it's facilitated for them, and what they're focused on creating now that they're in a more positive headspace. Also, this episode of the Positive Head podcast is being brought to you thanks to the support of Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. Hello, all you positive heads. On this week's Pea Head Posse episode, our guest is Positive Head listener Maechyl Boyle. Maechyl is a mystic, tarot reader, Reiki practitioner, sigil and candle magician, and a budding astrologer and writer. Since deciding to make spirituality the core of his life around 3 years ago, he has been tirelessly looking to understand, teach, and apply deeper layers of meaning of reality to play his part in the evolution of our species and our planet. Hi, Maechyl. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alexa. I'm so excited to be on the Positive Head podcast. What a dream come true.
Seriously, right? I and it must be, sometimes, like as happened today, I was mentioning this to you a little before we started recording. Sometimes, we usually are like backed up a bit for interviews, and then all of a sudden I'll realize, oh, I'm like getting to the end of these, and wait, I need somebody for this week. So it's funny because then like certain people will pop into my head, and you popped in my head very strongly. And because I've seen you in the group, and you've sent me Reiki before, and all the things. You're just such a bright light. But whenever that happens, and someone pops into my head, I think to myself, I'm like, good job, whoever you are. Like, good job, Maechyl. You manifested this. All right. Like, you manifested like me thinking of you and bringing you right on here. So that's awesome. Like, good for you. Powerful manifester.
Do you know what else though? There's one more. Also, it's kind of that's the great thing about specifically like that the Positive Heads group on Facebook is, like you say in the intro, like for these interviews, it's like, everyone in there, like you could just pick anyone at random, and it would be like a great conversation, And but there's something else I was thinking as well, is like, I was thinking earlier on that like how much the Positive Head podcast really gave me like such a boost when I was looking to make like significant, like spiritually minded changes to my life, that, it's kind of funny that I wouldn't be on this podcast if it wasn't for the Positive Head podcast, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It's like, this podcast has manifested itself in a way. Do you know what I mean? By creating all of us.
Oh my gosh, I know exactly what you're talking about. And I've said this before in a different way, that like the Positive Head podcast feels like an entity of its own. It's kind of like how Abraham Hicks, right, is apparently multiple entities, like multiple, it's like a collection of energy, like of different energies, right? It's kind of like the Positive Head podcast is like that. It's like this conglomeration of all these different amazing souls that make up the spirit of the Positive Head podcast, like completely.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
It
Do you know,
is.
also, I was going to ask you because obviously there was a first time for you being on this podcast. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you know what it's like. What was your first time like
Oh
for
man,
you?
are you interviewing me now?
Didn't expect that, did you?
Yeah. Are you
Well,
trying to take my
your
job,
realities are
Maechyl?
here.
Is that what's happening here? Man, well, let me think. The first time that I was on this podcast, that I was on it or that I heard it? That I was on
You
it?
were on it.
What was the first time that I was? Oh, I was on it. I actually, that's so weird that you asked that because I was just thinking about the first time that I was on it earlier today. Erica Middle Miss, Brandon had to go away, and Erica Middle Miss was hosting, and she had me on, and she asked what I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to talk about. I just come back from Burning Man. I wanted to talk about like. Divine, like I don't know, it was like sexuality is what I wanted to talk about because I wanted.
Oh my god, I remember that. I remember that
Do you?
episode. That was a great one.
Oh, well, thank you because actually I was like so psyched that I got the opportunity to be on the show. And then when Erica and I were recording, I like freaked out and I like made her stop the recording like 3 times. And I just was like blanking and getting so nervous. So it's so funny that you bring that up, and it's crazy, you know, like how that has transformed into this. So,
Right?
yeah, thanks for that.
Look at you now. Flying.
Wait, what did you say?
I said, look at you now. You're flying.
Look at you now. I love your accent. It's amazing. It's so cute. So sweet. Yeah, no, now I'm here with you having this lovely, lovely conversation. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of people listening know you from the Facebook group, but why don't you take a few minutes and just give people some background on you and, you know, what your journey has been like and how the Positive Head podcast eventually ended up selecting you as a part of it.
Cool. Okay. So let's see. Well, so first of all, about my accent, I'm from Scotland. That's why I speak weird. But so I know about like spirituality. Like I went to like a Catholic school and stuff, and I remember just being like fascinated by the whole thing, like all the mystery of it and everything. And I don't know. I specifically remember one time in a class they were like, okay, we're gonna like. I don't know, the teacher had some marking to do, and then they were like, here's a Bible, you know, just like read the Bible for a while. And I was like, oh my God, this is the Bible. This is like spirit. This is spirituality right here. And I was like, you mean I could just read any page? I just remember like being so like excited about that. And so there's been like little like hints throughout my whole life that I've been into like, that I had like a tendency towards like spirituality, and I kind of dipped in and out of various things like through my life. But it was only like, I don't know, 3 years ago when I was like, do you know what? I've got all these kind of beliefs, let's say, like, or, you know, beginnings of like understandings of how reality works, but I felt like I didn't really do anything to really like make them a part of my daily life. So I decided, well, do you know what? I'm going to make spirituality like the you know, the center of everything for me. So I started, just started taking it more seriously. I went for like a reattunement of Reiki. I'd been like attuned. So I left Scotland in 2015, I think, to like go and see the world or whatever. So I moved to Mexico, and now I live in Uruguay and in South America.
Wow.
But before I left, I got yeah, pretty wild, hey.
Yeah.
I've got a Leo rising in astrology, so I am like so full of myself, like, but like in appropriate doses.
I like people who are full of themselves in a good way.
But no, I really do. I just like love my life. It's great. But anyway, so I went for like a reattunement of Reiki when I was trying to make this like more important to myself. And then I stumbled across, here we go again. I was in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, and just like walking past a shop, I saw like a tarot deck in the window, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to buy one of those. And then just, you know, started applying these things and like reading them and reading about them and, you know, getting more into it. But at the same time as all this was going on, I think I was using Podbean at the time, like a podcast app. And I don't remember if I looked for like spirituality or positive or something, but, you know, I saw the picture and I was like, oh, this looks cool. And I was like, oh, it's every day. Oh, it's like half an hour. Cool. And I remember the first day that I listened to the Positive Head podcast, I was going down in the lift. So like I left the house in the morning and I pressed play when I was going down the lift. And then, you know, so like the old intro from like 2 years ago when Brandon said like, we're all was it immensely powerful? This is burned into my brain forever. Immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness that creates and animates all
All
things.
things.
And I remember I was just like, stop the lift. This, I can't believe how like perfect. This is exactly like what I need to be listening to. And just like lapped it up, like every day, listened to it. And it was just so good having it. Like these, like, the hearing this stuff like every day and just like a daily conscious effort, just really, really helped me, give me such a boost,
Yeah, totally.
especially in those early stages. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so now, you're, like we mentioned, you're a Reiki practitioner, obviously, and that's what you're doing a lot in the group. But what, in your intro, you said you're a mystic, a tarot reader, sigil and candle magician. What is a candle magician?
So the thing about like magic, like if we think about, okay, so after a while of like, let's say like after a year and a half of like, listening to podcasts and like trying to apply these concepts like day to day, the way that you approach situations, like not getting frustrated when you miss the bus to work, and instead of like being annoyed, start thinking about, okay, what's the reason, and approaching things that way. I wanted to find more ways of like taking like the application of these concepts to another level. So that led me into like magic and like witchcraft and stuff, things like that. It just ways of setting intentions, pretty much, which is pretty much what candle magic is. The magician thing is like, I'm never really sure like what to refer to myself as, like witch. I don't know. I kind of like witch, but I don't know. Like magician is kind of sounds like a
Alchemist,
like rabbits out of hats and stuff. I like that stuff's really cool, and I wish I could do it. But no, I think I'm getting more into like referring to myself as a magician. But essentially, candle magic is just, it's like ways of setting intention using candles, like using the flames of candles. Maybe like writing things on paper and burning it in the flames, or carving things into candles and then setting the intention and then like burning it all the way down, or things like that. Using different colors for different things. All this stuff is all part of candle magic.
Well, that's funny, because right now I'm staring at this candle, this long, skinny, indigo colored candle that my sister from Burning Man gave me. It's like a chakra energy candle of abundance, and I love it. And I was like burning it the other night, and it's funny because let's talk about that for a minute, because some people, I know everyone here has probably, at least read about, moon rituals, or, like what you're talking about writing something on a piece of paper and then burning it. So what is the philosophy behind that? Like, why is that so powerful, doing that? Like, what is it about doing that actually makes things happen?
For me, I think that there's, okay, so like any kind of ceremony, like for some people, they will say like, I don't need I don't need things to be dressed up in a certain way. I have my own way of understanding it, and that's what works for me. For me, it's such a cool thing to be able to look at like ways that you can use ceremony to make your manifestation like more powerful. So for me, it's like the more you believe in something, the more powerful it's going to be. Do you know? I think like Roald Dahl, he said like, those who don't believe in magic will never find it. I think that's really potent. And it's, for me, it's the more you can do to like set the mood. Maybe putting on some music that like makes you feel all witchy, and turning the lights off, and wearing something with a hood and putting the hood up, and putting on some gloves, or incense. All that stuff is going to like really set the scene, and it's going to like focus you more and make you really believe in what you're doing. And then I think that there's something really like mystical about like writing something down, and like really, really focusing when you're writing, really like pouring like emotion and intention into the words that you're putting on the paper, and then watching them burn. And it's like envisioning that when the paper burns, it's like being like eaten by the universe, and it's like you're literally just like sending it, up, in smoke or whatever. It's like going up there, and you can hold a piece of paper with, I've got some like metal tweezers or something I use, like hold it in the flame, and then I put it in this other bowl, and I watch it kind of burn up, and then maybe I'll say, like as I speak, I create, things like that, and just all these things just like really piling on the intention and the focus, it's just that's what's gonna add to the power of the manifestation of whatever it is you're trying to bring into your world.
Yeah. It's like what you're saying is it's adding to the momentum, right? Because like the longer that you're focused in a way, because that's why they say write things down, right? Because like in our heads, it's like thoughts are so fleeting that it's hard to kind of retain focus, or unless we train ourselves in certain ways. But when you actually write something out, it's like even just to write out a sentence, it takes a certain amount of time. So you're focused on that idea for that amount of time, right? So it's more momentum added. And so, yeah, you're helping me understand. It's like all of these things are just at helping us retain focus, and focus adds momentum, and momentum, it was what brings manifestations, right?
Definitely. And there's something interesting as well about sigils. Where do you know what a sigil is?
No, can you explain that to me? I don't know what a sigil is. I really don't.
So a sigil is like a glyph or like a symbol that you can create.
Okay.
Yeah. Out of something. So I'm sure that like there are some, like for example, like that candle, you said it's indigo, right?
Yes.
So
and it has a symbol on it. But
cool. What does it look like?
It I think it's Sanskrit. It's actually those chakra, like, when they make the chakra symbols. Do you know what I'm talking about? Sure. Yeah, it's like one of those, and it has like a Sanskrit symbol. It says ajna between the eyebrows, the chakra of the third eye. I think that's what the symbol is. But anyway, yes, it's indigo.
So that's a good example, that the chakra symbol. So you could consider that a sigil that has like a certain meaning to it, and it's like it represents that. So that color as well is also linked to your third eye chakra. So having all these like symbols in place that mean that they're all related to your third eye, that's all just going to add to the power of the manifestation. So a sigil is something you can make, though. It's commonly used in chaos magic, and chaos is just like another word for God. It just means like the divine principle that underlines everything, but they use chaos instead of God because God is like kind of loaded, in terms of what it means,
That itself is a sigil that is loaded with a lot of like stuff that we don't mean.
Great way of thinking.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly right.
Yeah.
So it's like if you have like a sentence of desire, which is like, okay, I will, it's my will that I'm gonna see a cat today, for example. You take like the letters of that sentence, and you if you like cross out the duplicate letters, and then you look at all the letters you've got, and then you put them all into like some kind of symbol. So it's like, so that you can see them all. So for example, if you put an M, just like a capital M, then that can also be a W, because if you turn it upside down, that's a W. And on its side, it's an E. And it's like you kind of build some symbol that includes all these letters within the symbol. And then that symbol, which doesn't look like the sentence, but has the same meaning as that sentence. And then you can use that like in magic,
That's cool. Yeah. No, I've heard a lot about using symbols. I just didn't know that that's what sigil meant, but and I think it's so interesting to create symbols and stuff, because essentially like we're creating, it gives a whole nother meaning to programming ourselves, right? And programming our reality, because it's literally like, we're like, hey, this is a shortcut. Like this is essentially like a jump key. It's like a button that you can constantly push and call back to. I mean, literally in computer programming, because I took a computer programming class, it's like you create names of things that then you call back to, right? So then you don't have to go through all the work of like writing out this whole program. You can then call back to that name of that program that you wrote, so that it's like it's constantly calling back to that. And that's basically exactly what we're doing here. It's like we're assigning meaning and programming to a symbol, and then we can just call back to that symbol without going in, because it represents that, right?
Exactly right. And that's actually a really good analogy, like with like programming and things like that. And what you said, would you say programming your reality? There was a really good way you just said that.
Programming your reality. Yeah, programming your reality, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because in chaos magic, like generally speaking, you want to like get a sigil. This is really interesting. You want to get it not into your conscious brain, but into your subconscious. So there's like a whole bunch of techniques about how to like bypass or like suspend the conscious mind, and then put like the intention in the subconscious as a way of like casting like the spell. So like ways you can do that are just like staring like into like a mirror or something like that until you kind of zone out completely. And then while you're in that state, like look at or even just like look at the sigil, just stand there and stare at it until you kind of, your conscious mind isn't really looking at it anymore. And then your subconscious is, and it goes in that way. Or there's some like really weird ones, like standing on one leg until, your conscious brain isn't thinking about the sigil anymore. It's thinking about, my leg hurts.
Yeah.
And then right when you're about to like fall over, then at that moment, like put all your focus and tension on the sigil and things like that. Just like, cool ways that people have thought to go about the same thing as like transcendental meditation and things like that. It's the same, and set intentions in there. It's just like, there's a whole world, there's
totally.
so much to get into.
Totally. And as you're talking about this, it just makes me realize that even more so that our reality is completely customizable. Like there's so much we can do with it. Again, going back to computer programming, it's the same way. Like people can write all kinds of programs and apps and like behaviors that computers should follow that create certain things. And it's like, literally, it's a direct metaphor to our reality, and we can create all kinds of. We can create whatever we want by writing the program, and you're just making that so clear to me. And I think it's so cool that we each. It also is making me think about, like Ambi and I. Ambi, my podcast co-host on another podcast that I host, Inner Bloom, we always kind of have a lot of symbolism with like dragonflies, right? Or butterfly. I mean, a lot of people do, but specifically like with Ambi, she has like a dragonfly thing. And it was like today we were recording something and I was looking out the window and I'm on the 8th floor of my building. And we were talking about some super like something that was like really, something that was like really transforming within me. And all of a sudden a dragonfly comes flying right into the window on the 8th floor. And I'm just like, where did you like it seems like, animals, for example, pop up as symbols of certain thought processes or certain. So I don't know. It just makes me think about all of that and how, you can even use animals, right, as sigils, right? Like you can use them to. Yeah, so that's awesome. I love all this stuff. I love like hearing about all of these things. And is there, I don't know, like you seem pretty experienced with this, or like you've been playing around with this a lot. Have you had any like crazy or like awesome experiences by using these sigils, or anything awesome like good that's happened to you?
For me, I tend to I tend to focus on things that are not like so. I tried a couple of things. Like general advice about when you start working with sigils is that you should start off with casting sigils for something is going to happen. So like a sentence of desire that you're going to like that you're going to have lunch tomorrow or something,
right.
And then it's like, when you have the lunch, it's like, okay, cool, that worked, and then, and kind of building on it that way. And then you start getting on stuff like, I'm going to see like someone with a red hat tomorrow, and then, and you cast it and then it's like, oh, but the thing is though, that a part of casting sigils is that, do you know, I think it's from Buddhism, like the detachment, is that from Buddhism or Taoism?
I don't know.
Like the whole, like when you set an intention and then you just like, you remove yourself from like expecting it to work out.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah. So in chaos magic, the way that they reckon is the best way to do that is to completely forget that you cast a sigil in the first place. That's the best way for you to, so I don't know, maybe I've had like loads of success, but I don't remember all the sigils that I cast.
Yeah.
I don't know, but there are some things I always, generally speaking, I cast sigils for, oh, actually, I just thought of a really good example of one that was specific. So I have a lot of, like I've had a lot of problems in my life, or like difficulties with like emotional instability. And I've done quite a lot of like magic work on myself to help with that, to like steady the ship or whatever, or like, you know, more like, okay, I want it to be more obvious for me, like how I can get these under control and things like that. And now, like, I think I'm way better than I was like a year ago at managing my own emotions. So again, I don't remember any specific sigils that I cast, but I know that there were quite a lot in that area. So probably some of those. And actually, I'll give you an even better example. I have asthma as well. And I went through a period of, more with candles than with sigils, I think, but doing a lot of intention setting about like that, you know, I don't have asthma, and, I have a perfectly functioning set of lungs. And there was like a period of 6 months where, you know, I've never like been able to breathe so well in my whole life. And it just just went away. And then, you know, I kind of fell off the wagon as far as like putting intention into that, and it crept back in. But I cured myself of asthma for a while, which was crazy.
That's crazy. And that's awesome. Cause I'm very big into not, you know, giving into, well, it just shows you, I mean, it just shows you I'm just laughing because everyone around me right now is like sick. And if you can probably hear, I have a stuffed nose, but I am not sick. And I truly am not. Right. Like, I don't feel unwell at all. I literally just, my nose is stuffed up. And it's funny because like sometimes like everyone around me will get sick and then they'll be like, how are you? And it's kind of like how Brandon says, I've kind of adopted Brandon's belief about it. I'm like, I just don't believe that I'm supposed to be like, I just don't believe in that. And I don't give into that. And so it's really awesome and I think it's the most amazing power of manifestation is that of our bodies, actually. Like, I do truly think that, like, gosh, we just have so much power. We just have so much power, and it's just all about where our focus goes. I mean, it's like, you know, when you connect the dots and you actually realize that, like, you are creating your own reality, it's amazing to realize that none of these things that are happening, for example, with our bodies are, it's like society says, oh, well, you have this, so that means this. Like, you have this disease, quote unquote, so that means you have this long to live. And it's like, no, that's just what has happened in the past. Like, we are constantly recreating and redefining those things. And what you're saying is, like, using sigils and candle magic, or, you know, this intention setting is a way to just refocus and change those outcomes and change those boundaries. And I think, you know, that's something we should all be playing with and experimenting with. It's because it's just, our intention is so powerful. Like we should see what we can do with it, you know?
100%. I really couldn't agree more. I think for me, I had this early like dilemma where I was like, oh, you know, if I set an intention, I'm like messing with the order of things. But then I realized that I'm constantly creating everything around me anyway. So I might as well, if I'm going to be doing that, I might as well do something that, you know, I'm going to enjoy.
Yeah, you know? Absolutely.
Instead of just like wandering around manifesting things by accident.
Exactly. I've been thinking recently, it's like, if I'm really, really good at focusing on, I've been really good in my life at like worrying and like coming up creatively with like all the most amazing, like all creatively in my mind, the worst things that could happen. Like, literally, I have just a history of like fantasizing about, like, I can come up with some crazy situations. And I had the realization recently, it's like, just take that power that you have to be so creative in your mind and just flip it on the other side. Like, literally, just, why don't you like try for a while thinking, what are all the awesome things that could happen? Like, literally, like, it's that simple of a shift. It's just a habit of thought, you know? So, well, why don't you, I know, why don't you talk about like your Reiki a bit? Because actually, so this is funny because I forgot about this until we just started talking. This was like, I don't know how long ago this was. I think this was like 5 or 6 months ago. in the Facebook group, because you do this quite frequently, where you ask everybody, you say, hey, I'm sending out Reiki today. And you say, put your name below if you want to receive, which is also a sigil, right? Isn't that like some kind of a sigil? Like, because you're tying everyone's name. Because I always think about this when people say, hey, put your name below if you want to receive. It's like you're tying all those names together energetically and then sending it out. Is that correct?
That's such a cool way of looking at that. I really like that, because actually the way I do it is of everyone who, by the way, if anyone is like listening and for some reason is like, is a part of the group and is like shy to put their name down, no, don't be. Just like say like me, or, send an emoji or whatever. Because all the comments, I take the names of the people who commented, and I write them all down on a piece of, I love writing things down on pieces of paper. I write them down on a piece of paper. And using like Reiki symbols that you get when you're attuned to level 2, which is the level I am. One of them is the distance and time symbol, which means you can send Reiki across, you guessed it, distance and time. And then I work with, I usually have some crystals on the table, and which again, everything you take is like a sigil. I like that. I like your way of thinking. You've sent me into a whole thing. So then I work with the crystals in front of me, and I connect them with the chakras of all the people that I divide it up into groups, so I don't do everyone at one time. I know it ends up being, maybe 20 at a time. And I work with like the crystals in front of me as if it's their chakras. And I can sense like, it's so cool, by the way, like being able to like feel, okay, like sacral chakra. And it's like, this one is, if I can feel, just like if I'm working on a person who's like physically in front of me, when I put my hand over their chakra, I can feel if it needs some juice or not. That's my word of the week for Reiki is juice. If it needs some juice, if it doesn't need juice, it like a kind of gentle like push away. It's like the coolest feeling in the world. And otherwise it kind of like sucks me down, my hand like onto the crystal, and I work that way. But I do like that way of thinking about it's like their name, the act of like writing that down and like with the Reiki symbols and everything, and sending it as like a whole group. I like that. That's great.
Well, it's yours. You can use it. But like, wait, so are you saying, do you go through everyone individually, or do you group them together in the groups of 20, like you're talking about, and then like you feel based on the group? Or do you literally do individually?
No, I would do it. So let's say that it depends on how many names I can fit on one page of my little
okay.
Book. So I'll always draw at least once like all of the Reiki symbols. So there are 3 of them. There's a time distance one, there's a power one, and there's a mental emotional one. And I'll write those down, and then I'll start writing names. And then sometimes I'll just kind of feel, okay, these people, that's like one group, or I'll just fill the page. It depends. And then I will like draw the symbol, like the time and distance symbol across like the page with my hand, and then across the crystals on the table, and then intend that the crystals are connecting with the chakras and energy systems of all these people. And then I'll work with like all those people on that page like as one group, until all the chakras are balanced and everything. And a full balancing usually takes about 15 minutes. So depending on how many people commented, could be like, 45 minutes, maybe an hour sometimes. And then, but it's so cool. Like when you finish like with one group of people, and it's like, okay, and then you do the next group, like the chakras that are like needing balancing are like completely different. And I know that like at this stage, it shouldn't really be a shock for me that, Reiki works and stuff, but it's still just like so cool to just like feel like, really, isn't that so cool? And, there's things like, I don't really cry very often, except sometimes at films and when I'm doing Reiki treatments for other people. And it's really weird to like, and it's really great as well to be able to like, absorb some of the pressure from some people so that, their load's a bit lighter,
Is that what's happening when you're crying? Like, you think you're essentially taking on their emotion and then releasing it, and how do you not like absorb that? Like, how do you not like actually take that on yourself?
I think for me, the big thing is that I know that it's not mine, right. There's a couple of times when I've been receiving Reiki, when I've picked up emotions from the person doing Reiki on me, and it's been like, hang on a second, this emotion isn't mine. So it's like, I don't hold on to it, but I'm able to like absorb it and then just like, release it.
Well, that reminds. Well, first I'll just say what I was going to say originally, which was this was like 5 or 6 months ago, and you put out a call. You were saying like if you want Reiki, put your name below, and I put my name, but then I totally forgot about it. And then it was like I think later that night, I was sitting on my couch and I was talking to my cousin, and all of a sudden, I just felt like really good. Like I felt just like waves of energy going through me. And she looked at me. She's like, "What's going on with you?" I was like, "I don't know. I just feel like really awesome right now." I don't know. And then I went afterwards. I was on the Facebook group, and then I saw you updated. You were like, "Oh, I just sent it out. So like, done for the night or whatever." And I responded, I was like, "Wait, I literally just felt it. Like, did you just finish?" And you were like, "Yeah." And I was like, "That's so crazy because I totally forgot about this." And like, I was wondering what was going on. And so you like really helped me believe in like distant. I mean, I've always believed in energy healing. Well, since I've like been awake, but like the power of like distance Reiki, because I like really felt it. But then I was gonna bring up an Ambi. I hope you're okay with me sharing this. But so Ambi was telling me this story that happened like a couple weeks ago, and you were helping her with it, where there's someone that she was working with that wasn't feeling good, and so she was like. It got the impulse to say like, "Okay, just lay down, let me like try something." Because Ambi is always like trying things and getting looking to
help people.
Yeah, looking to help people and just like expand her abilities, and like there's always things she's figuring out that she can do, and it's like it's fun to watch. But anyway, so she
I love that, just figuring out things like, "Oh, I can do that too." Oh, cool.
Yeah, okay. Like she's always like getting impulses like I should try this now, and so she got this impulse to try and like put her hand over the girl, even though she's like not an energy practitioner, and see what happened. And then anyway, she said when she did that, she saw this like brown stuff in her mind's eye. She saw this brown stuff in the girl's like head area. And so she put her hands over it, and then it came out of her. She imagined herself pulling it out. And then all of a sudden the girl sat up and was like, "What did you do?" And she was like, "What?" And the girl was like, my headache's completely gone. Like, what did you do? Like, that was crazy. And then Ambi was like, and Ambi said then she heard this voice before she stopped and pulled away. She heard a voice in her head that she didn't know what it was, but it was like a voice saying like, "You don't know what you're doing. Like, you don't know what you're messing with," basically. Mm-hmm. And so then Ambi was feeling really weird all day. And then we had like an important interview to do. And she was telling me that right before we got on this interview that you were like telling her all these things to do. And the crazy thing is that I don't know what you were doing with her, but right when we got on this interview, like literally she was still feeling weird. And then all of a sudden she was like, "Oh my God, like it's gone. Like whatever it is gone. Like I literally feel like completely back to normal." All of a sudden I felt this whoosh come up my body and I just feel great. So I'm just curious, what was going on there? And can we actually take, like, is it, my overarching question is it, are there people that we shouldn't mess with, or is there a danger in energy healing, right? And like doing Reiki if like we don't know what we're doing exactly? Because we might take on I'm just like interested in your perspective of that whole situation.
So I definitely would think that there are like entities out there like that exist that they're not really gonna not everyone's a positive head, there are some things that they're gonna have like bad like intentions, like about what they're for, even like with chaos magic. Sometimes some people will create a sigil, and they'll create like a thought form to carry out like the intention of the sigil, like in their subconscious, and there's always, if you're ever going to do that, you absolutely need to put like a lifespan on this thought form, because otherwise it'll just keep existing and like maybe get stronger or whatever, so there are things out there that exist. As far as like, I mean, the things like you can do like, you could attack someone if you wanted to, like with an intention, with a spell or whatever, these things are all real. But in that case, like, I didn't know what that was. If this woman that Ambi, helped, had been attacked by someone, I don't know. But I just like, so I don't know, the first time I've like ever had to deal with anything like that. And I was like, oh my God. But, I was like totally like, okay, let's use what I do know to help,
Yeah.
So I did like work with her chakras, and I made a sigil for her, and I made a mantra as well out of Descendants of Desire, which is essentially the same thing. You cross out the duplicate letters. You cross out like the duplicate letters, and then you end up with all these like letters that don't make sense, and you can kind of rearrange them into something that sounds cool, and witchy maybe, and make that into a mantra. So, and I did one of those, and it was about like getting like a powerful flush like through all her chakras, and at the same time I sent Reiki to all her chakras and everything. So yeah, I forgot what your original question was, but that was a really cool thing, and I'm really glad that it really helped her. And yeah, it was a cool experience for me, and kind of, I guess, maybe scary for her, So I'm glad that it got sorted out.
Yeah, no, she was like so grateful for you, and she said she couldn't believe how powerful it was. And so this is all to say, if you're listening to this and you're interested in Reiki, you should definitely hit up Maechyl, because he knows what he's doing and has some powerful magic for you. Speaking of that, if people do want private sessions with you, how do they find you?
Yeah, so I'm just beginning to like, because there's like I said, I'm moving this all like kind of central part of my life, and I have like loads of like really cool ideas with stuff I want to do. Essentially, I want to learn. I want to be like good enough and understand all of this stuff like well enough to be able to teach it to people in a way that's like usable,
Yeah.
So I'm kind of just starting to try out some things. I've got a Facebook page. If you look up White Magic with Maechyl, that's like my name,
Sorry.
which I think is pretty cool. White Magic. And to make it difficult for you to find, I've spelled Maechyl weird, which is in the title of this podcast, I guess.
Yeah.
Maechyl. By the way, there's a funny story about why that is. Maybe I'll tell you in a second. So magic, by the way, is magic is CK. So White Magic with a CK. White Magic with Maechyl, spelled weird. That's
Love
on
it.
Facebook. You can find it there. Also, I've got a blog. I've started writing some essays on like esotericism and stuff. So that's again White Magic with Maechyl, spell all weird. .blogspot.com. You can find me there, and you can find me on Etsy as well. I've got an Etsy shop, which is White Magic Maechyl, because there's not enough room for the width. So
I like that, White Magic Maechyl. That sounds like your name.
Right? I wish I had thought of that before I named the other things. whitemagicmichael.etsy.com. There's some stuff there. There's some tarot readings and some Reiki stuff on there. And I'd like to announce, I was going to announce this like separately, but here we go. Announce on the podcast. What a dream come true.
Here we go. Yeah.
If you put in the coupon code on Etsy, if you put positive head, all one word, you get a 17% discount on like individual tarot or both sessions with me.
There you go. You got the hookup if you're listening to this. 17% off. Put positive head. We're just positive heads is awesome. Sorry. I mean, I'm not sorry, but I'm just saying we're just awesome. We just all have the hookup on like, we're just like up leveling like crazy each other. We're basically like one big group mind. It's like really awesome. Or it's a mastermind. That's what it is. We're all like,
right.
And sorry, my nose is really stuffy, but you got what I'm saying? It's just like, we're just like all like hooking each other up with what each other has to give. And it's awesome. And I love it. And definitely go check out White Magic Maechyl. That's what I'm going to call you now. White Magic Maechyl.
Magic Maechyl.
If you went to Burning Man, that would be your playa name. Just telling you.
Oh, I like that. I definitely would love to go to Burning Man sometime, because you and Corey as well. A big shout out to Corey. And,
I hung out with him this year there.
Oh, that's so cool. That's like, that's the dream. That really is the dream.
Yeah, it was crazy because like we've talked and FaceTimed a bunch beforehand, and then he just showed up at my camp one day, and I was like, "Oh my God, you're here in real life!" It was so cool. That's my dream. Actually, Brandon always talks about how he wants to create like a camp with people with his same birthday, but I think we should just create a positive heads camp. I don't know about anyone else, but I think that would be super cool. Well, that's
such a Brandon idea, don't you think? Like everyone has the same birthday.
Such a Brandon idea, cool. And I love it. Don't get me wrong. I think that would actually be really cool and interesting. but well, that's all in the future, but something in the vortex to look forward to.
Therefore.
But so before we go, we got to wrap up soon, but I wanted to ask you a couple more questions. What is one thing that you think every positive head would benefit from knowing or understanding as they continue on their own journey?
Oof, that's a whole book. To answer that question. Right. Okay. One thing. I think for me, the main thing, and something that I really looked to do, maybe like a couple of years ago, was to find ways to, essentially it's practice. I think practice on like put these concepts and everything that you're starting to like understand and study and learn and listen about,
Yeah.
read about all these things, put it all together and start applying it, that was for me like a few years ago when I was like, I believe these things, but I don't really put them into practice. And that's what it's all about, really. I think that's when you start seeing real change and real progress, is when you start like making use of these concepts, because until then they're just ideas, nice ideas. But then when you start to really like improve the lives of people around you, that's when you really start to make a difference. And it's tied into like practice is tied into service in a big way. Like, so like the whole white magic thing it's not really about like Final Fantasy, cure spells. It's more about like, service and like not doing things as like for your individual, not even like in a good way. It's about like instead of being like a pentagram that's like pointing downwards, is like black magic, because it's like the forces of the universe like coming into like one person. Yeah. White magic is like pointing up, because it's like coming from you like out into the world. And that's for me the whole thing, is like applying these concepts and learning how you can assist and help like the evolution of the world, of this consciousness, because that's what we're here to do. That's what we're all called to do. And that's, for me, that's the thing to do, is like look for how you can apply these concepts and use them to make the world a better place, starting with yourself and then starting with the people closest to you and then outwards.
Totally. Love that. Yeah. It's so cool that like we're all picking up and like realigning with these skills that, maybe we all played with and we're dealing with in past lives or something, and we're just like coming back to them. It's like, I feel that way with tapping. It's like, I never knew that. I always knew that I was going to help people, but I thought it would be through like therapy or something. And when that didn't feel right, I thought, I don't know what I was thinking. And now it's like through having this skill, it's like, wow, this is what I have to give. Like, this is how I can help. And then it's cool, because like then I can give that to someone, and then you can give like Reiki to me. It's like, and that's what we've been talking about this whole time about positive head. It's like we're all these different fractals, right? Like going back to that original intro of love and of healing and of coming back to ourselves. And it's so awesome. So yeah, that's great advice. Thank you. And
100%.
Awesome. And then finally, I'm sorry.
Are you okay?
I really, really am. That's why I'm laughing, because it sounds like I'm like getting worse and worse by the second, but I'm totally fine and I feel totally fine. I won't get sick. I don't get sick. Okay.
No, you don't get sick.
So the last thing I wanted to ask is there any, fun story like manifestation or synchronicity, or like any fun, like cool experience that you've ever had where you're like, yeah, like this works, or like the universe is on my side, or I am a manifestor, anything, like any fun story like that you want to share?
There is, so I was thinking about that, like manifestation stories. And it's funny because a lot of the stuff I do, like when you work with tarot and things, it's like, it's about that, it's like, it's what you're doing. You're working with this idea of manifestation, or the other way around. You're like taking clues from the universe. And there's maybe things like so. There's, once I did a reading one time, and I was shuffling the cards, and sometimes. Do you work with tarot, by the way, Alexa?
I do I do have a couple of decks, and I do like draw for myself every once in a while. So yeah.
So whenever you're shuffling, do cards ever fall out of the deck?
Yes. They jump out.
And
yeah.
right. And so, I'm never sure like if that's like a message from the universe or like bad technique.
I take it as a message, but yeah.
So as I would sometimes, but in this particular case, it was like the King of Pentacles that flew out, and I was like, I made a joke to the client. I was like, well, this time we'll just say, it's just like bad shuffling,
Yeah.
And I put it back in, and I was shuffling, and then I said, okay, like the first card's your current context, and it was the King of Pentacles, and I was like, are you joking?
Yeah.
Are you joking?
Why did you want to put it back in? Is the King of Pentacles like a bad card?
No, actually, the King of Pentacles might be my favorite card ever. I have in astrology, I have a Capricorn stellium, so like and I'm full of myself, so I think that the King of Pentacles is me. So, I was like, no, I don't know. I just at that time I was like, we'll not count it this time, because again, it's like entirely your intention. So, it's like the message is going to get through anyway. So in this case, I just put it back in, and then it just came out again, and I was like, someone get the calculator. Like, what are the odds of that? Of like the same card.
Yeah. When a card is meant for you, it's meant for you. Right?
Yeah, 100%. And just little things like that, that pop up. And I think I get lots of like little things, I think
totally.
Maybe I get deja vu. Like I always think that the deja vu is like a little wink from, the cosmic wink, let's say, about when I'm on the right path, and things like that. And it's like,
yes.
Sometimes when I take like a big decision or something, and I'm like, okay, like let's just go for it, and then I get deja vu, within the next day. I'm like, oh, great little reassurance there,
Totally. And actually, it's funny because Ambi and I have done several. We've talked about deja vu several times, like on our podcast, but specifically in one conversation, we were doing like a celebrity interview. We didn't put this out, but we recorded it. I wanted to talk to Robin Williams, and if you're listening, you don't know, she's a medium. So she connected to Robin Williams, and we got into this like really crazy conversation. And somehow deja vu came up, and he said that deja vu is when we're running into ourselves. That's what we're doing. We're running into different versions of ourselves, but it is a sign that it is essentially a sign that we're on the right track, because we're coming up against ourselves. Like when there's a million different versions of us out there, right? Because there's all these different there's all these different versions of reality. And so it's us coming up against ourselves, and like, it's like you said, it is a nod that like, yes, we've done this before, like, and we're in sync, because
right.
You get what I'm saying? And so I don't know, he described it in some really crazy way. I'll have to go back and look at that interview, but yeah, deja vu is pretty crazy, and it's just no, it's awesome, and I get that a lot as well, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners do too. So that's awesome. And anything else you want to share before we sign off here?
Don't think so. Just it's really has been so cool. It's kind of surreal actually being like on the pause. It's gonna be so weird saying my name like on the Castbox app.
Your name in the big flashing lights on the Castbox
right.
app. Yeah.
This Leo rising is loving it. But no, really, thanks so much for
so full of yourself.
Right.
Love it.
I really have a thing about like I can't walk past a shop without like looking myself in the mirror and stuff. It's really terrible. But by the way, one thing about astrology, it like really helps you to like really just like accept these things about yourself as like, emotional instability, just feeling, that's just my Scorpio, man. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. Anyway, so really wanted to say thanks so much for having me on. I really love like the work that this podcast is doing. Anyone who's listens to this and isn't in the Facebook group, get involved. It's so cool. There's like, I do Reiki every week. There's Ambi doing psychic readings, every week. You got Nixie doing tarot all the time. There's, all these people offering all their help. It's just a great place to be. And it really helped me, with, spiritual growth, especially like in the, when it was all new and confusing. But yeah, just thanks so much. Thanks to Brandon. Thanks to Big Dalian, who's editing this. No, really great. I really love being a part of the P-head posse, family.
I just got this image of you like up on a podium, like accepting some award, going, thank you, Brandon.
You're
Thank you,
rising. I told
Dillian.
you.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I love it. Well, thank you, Maechyl. This was awesome. Thank you for, being willing to come on here. And it's so awesome to connect. I love like when I've been talking to people online a little bit and then I get to actually hear their voice and talk to them in person. Well, not in person, but it's
cool.
just, yeah, it's just so cool. And I can't wait until we meet in actual real life in 3D.
Right.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
Hey, come to Uruguay anytime. Just let me know.
Hell yeah. That's what I was going to say. When you told me you live there now, I was like, okay, well, I'm putting that on my list of places to go. So I will see you there soon.
Best beaches in South America.
All right. Yeah. Well, you're on. I'll see about that.
Great.
All right, Maechyl. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day.
Thank
Bye.
you. You too. Bye-bye.
That's it for this week's episode. If you're a listener with a story to share and are interested in being featured on a future episode of this special series, you can email me at alexa@positivehead.com. Also, if you're craving more consciousness elevating content, be sure to check out Gaia, which is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web, where you can stream an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. As you all hear Brandon constantly say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration. And if you're looking to journey deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place we know of to do it. Period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. Otherwise, tune in next Friday for another P-Head Posse episode. And until then, as Brandon always says, journey well.